Welcome to College Admissions Toolbox, giving you the edge you need to get into the colleges of your dreams, with your host, Steve Schwartz. That's me. Today we're talking with Shelley Enger. Shelley, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being on this show. You actually are a freshman application reader for UC Berkeley, and you also work with STEM-focused students, helping them out with their college applications. Tell us a little bit about how you got into all this.
I'd be happy to do that. Well, I actually came to college admissions advising through a kind of meandering path. And I think that's probably a lot of people's stories. I worked for many years in cancer research. I'm a cancer epidemiologist. And I actually, after about 10 years, I ended up leaving my role as a research scientist for family reasons and started working as a research consultant, which I still do. But it's kind of a project-by-project situation. And I was feeling like I wanted to do more. I wanted to help younger people who wanted to enter careers in science. And I had all this experience. So I actually sort of planned this out. I simultaneously developed a college admissions advising practice and developed the curriculum for courses that I teach students about the process of research science. And the reason that I did both of them at the same time was I felt that, they kind of have to go hand in hand for STEM students who are in high school, because STEM students in high school, their biggest educational milestone is applying to college. And so I needed to understand that side of it, and I wanted to understand that side of it a bit better. And also, coming from a background in higher education, I had a pretty good idea of what was going on in different universities and colleges. And so that just kind of was how I got the ball rolling. So I reached out to my alma mater, UC Berkeley, and applied for a job as a freshman application reader. I found out about that because I had done a lot of volunteering on behalf of the university, outreach, reading applications for scholarships for the Alumni Association. And I felt that my analytical skills as a research scientist and my ability to make sense of different types of data and information would actually be helpful in the admissions process. And also, I'm located in Southern California, where about half of California applicants come from who apply to UC Berkeley. And so I thought that my location would also help. And they agreed and hired me as a reader. And so this was a great opportunity, I think, for me to give back to my alma mater, where I had actually just a wonderful undergraduate experience. I think that is where I really learned how to think. And so it was great to be able to have the opportunity to help select future freshman classes. And it's really rewarding to be a reader. But also, it really helps that other side of my practice, which is helping young students become scientists. I love science. I read about it constantly. And it's something that excites me, and it excites young people too. And so I wanted to help them deepen their interest in science and also give them the tools they need to achieve their longer-term goals of a career in science, while also helping them identify colleges that would be a good fit for their personal and professional goals, and then helping them through the admissions process.
No, of course, it sounds like a really amazing and rewarding career that you've built for yourself, working as the application reader and also helping the students get into science and apply to college. One thing I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there are really interested in is just what exactly is involved in being an application reader. Could you maybe walk us step by step through the process?
Sure. I'll give you an idea. It's actually a really amazing process, and I'm very proud to work for the university. It's a seasonal position. So because the university has so many applications, I think last year maybe we had 78,000. The Office of Admissions needs additional help, and so they hire a lot of counselors, counselors in high schools and community colleges, as well as interested alums who have private counseling services, or others who have related interests to actually read the applications. And we're all really excited to go there. It's just a wonderful, inspiring experience. We train. The training is actually quite involved. We train at the beginning and then throughout the process. And the goal is to make sure that we read the applications consistently so that the process isn't arbitrary. And I appreciate the efforts of the Office of Admissions. Everything is about the students and about the applicants, making sure that we treat each of them fairly. We are actually limited as to the number of applications we can read in a given day, because they don't want some of us reading applications at 2 a.m. when we're exhausted and not giving somebody a fair shake relative to somebody else who might have their application read at 10 a.m. So we have to be alert, and if we're tired, we have to set it aside for the day. So it's a great opportunity. But basically, reading the application, it's a holistic review. So we're actually considering all aspects of every application when we are considering each student. So that goes beyond just grades and test scores, but also activities that they've been involved in, leadership, character, all of these qualities that help us try to picture that student on our campus. UC Berkeley wants a variety of students, and I'm speaking for myself personally and my personal experience as a reader, not on behalf of the university, but it's been my experience that the university wants students who will be actively involved in campus. And that doesn't mean that they can't be introverted. There are wonderful students who are not as outgoing, and that's absolutely fine. But we want students who have a passion and interest, in academics and extracurricular activities, because students who get involved tend to be more successful. And I don't just mean successful in terms of grades, but successful as students on campus are less likely to leave and just have a better experience. And that's really what we want. So we review all aspects of the application, including the grades, the test scores, the personal statements. That's a big part of it, because that helps the reader understand the student. We hear their voice and learn what really motivates them. We like for them to tell us what they did in high school and why they did it and what they learned from it. And it's great to hear about what they might want to do when they get to college also. So,
no, of course. Yeah, it's so rewarding to read those personal statements and get a sense of the student's personality when it's, of course, not going to come through just from the grades and test scores and even just a simple list of activities.
Right. Absolutely the case. Very, very important part of it. Students often ask, well, how important is it? It's very important. It really makes a difference when we're reading the applications, because the rest of the information in the application is just data, and that's where they can really shine through. That's their opportunity for an interview, because schools like Berkeley can't provide interviews for 78,000 students.
Of course, sure.
This is really their opportunity to tell about what they want to tell about.
Definitely. Now, I'm wondering, a larger school like UC Berkeley, obviously tens of thousands of applications. They have to hire outside folks to review the applications, such as yourself. And I'm wondering, you said that there's still, even with all the outside folks they hire, there's still so many applications to review. They have to constrain how many you can read on a single day. Can you get a little bit more specific with us and tell us, what's your average day like during application season? How many applications are you allowed to read in a day? How many do you read? And then how do you divide the time? If you're devoting X number of minutes to the application, what specific number of minutes is on the essay versus the other factors?
Yeah, well, we're actually not given like a time limit per application, and it really kind of varies. And the process is going to change this year a little bit. It changes every year somewhat. And so it's kind of hard to put, a hard and fast number on that. But basically, they don't want us reading for more than a typical workday, like 8 hours or so. And so, that could be a couple or 3 dozen applications potentially. But the idea is that we need to be fresh for each one. Every one matters. No one application is more important than another. And if you're not, up to it, you shouldn't be reading it at that moment. So that's really why we don't want the students to view us these, burning the midnight oil, barely grinding through these and we don't expect the students to entertain us, in their personal statements. It really is a personal statement. We want to hear their voice. We want it to be authentic. As far as the reading goes, all of it matters. It's not divided up into a percentage of this or a percentage of that, and then it's averaged. It's, we review the entire application holistically, and I really believe in the way that Berkeley does it. I think it's very fair, and based on what I've observed as the outcomes of the application reading cycles, it seems to really work. The students that we bring onto campus, the freshmen, are wonderful and involved in so many different things, so smart, inquisitive, ask lots of questions. I think the professors seem to be really happy. Again, I'm speaking from personal experience, but that's really the goal of the process.
No, definitely. I think it's great. I totally get what you're saying. One thing we really love to hear on College Admissions Toolbox, Shelley, are stories. I'm wondering if you could take us to the moment in time of the worst college admissions moment that you've seen or experienced, and then we'll kind of delve into some of the lessons we could learn from that. Anything come to mind?
Yes, actually. This is a pretty bad moment that I can think of. It didn't happen to one of my students, but what happened was one of my students, it was the summer after her graduation, she went up to her freshman orientation for her university, which is quite a prestigious university. It was a big deal to get in there. And she called me and told me that one of her high school classmates had not, or who was supposed to go to the orientation also, they had gotten into the same university, had received a letter the day before the orientation telling them that their offer of admission had been withdrawn. Now, the reason the offer was withdrawn was that the student hadn't maintained, and I'm not going to say his or her senior year grades to the standard required by that university. And this was, of course, a really sad story, but I think it brings up a couple of issues that are worth talking about. One is that an offer of admission is almost always conditional on completing your senior year with grades that are consistent with the grades that you earned before your senior year. The university is not obligated to uphold that offer of admission if you don't meet the terms of the offer, which is basically to maintain the grades that you had when you applied for admission. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that if you've always had, mostly A's and an occasional B, and now you have 2 B's, that you're going to have your offer withdrawn. I mean, you don't need to panic. It's not like that. We all have ups and downs from semester to semester. That's totally understandable. But if there's a substantial drop in grades and there's no explanation for it, a student is really risking losing that fantastic opportunity to head off to that school. Which kind of brings me to the second point, which is that colleges are really interested in students who are interested in learning. And, that's certainly a factor that's evaluated as part of a holistic or comprehensive review process that a lot of schools use to evaluate applications, not just Berkeley. So, and if a school requires essays or personal statements, that's because they want to know about your motivations, your interests, your passions, and also your character. So they're looking beyond just the grades and the test scores. So if a student gets into a very selective college, you can assume that means that the student portrayed him or herself as an engaged, motivated learner. But then if they choose to spend the rest of their senior year, at the beach or playing video games, and their grades take a nosedive, they're sending the message that it really wasn't about the learning. So, I'm sure this was a really tough lesson for that student. I can't imagine how terrible that summer would have been for the student and their parents. But I just hope that I'm just mentioning this so that to avoid heartache for other students and families, because it does happen. It happens every year.
Oh, for sure, 100%. I mean, everyone, is tempted by senioritis to some extent, especially if you've really been burning the midnight oil, trying to maintain everything and send off your college applications at the same time. But you can let it slip a tiny bit, but not too much, because then exactly as you said, Shelley, it is going to suggest that you were just doing it all to get in But if once you send off the applications, you drop everything, or once you get that acceptance, you drop everything, it's going to send a different message altogether. So definitely a really valuable lesson to keep in mind. Thanks so much for sharing that. I want to shift gears now and move into my favorite part of the interview, which is the lightning round. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. You give me some rapid fire responses. Are you ready?
I am.
Great. What's your number one piece of advice for the college admissions process?
Okay. This is practical advice. Start early. I definitely encourage students to start really early in the process, because the more you get done early on, especially in the summer before your senior year, the less you have to deal with during the fall of your senior year. The fall is such a busy time. You're trying to keep up your grades, maybe even improve them. You're so busy with all your extracurricular activities. And this is really like an extra class. I mean, if you add up the time you spend getting those applications out, it's like another class. So the more you can do in the summer, I think the better.
Oh, definitely. If you're applying to 10, 12, 15 schools or more, it's a lot of applications, a lot of supplemental essays possibly. So definitely getting as much out of the way early as possible. Great advice. Could you share with us one habit that you believe contributes to college admissions success?
Yeah, there are a lot of good habits to talk about, but if it had to be one, I would say just fundamentally learning for the sake of learning is the habit to develop in high school. Not just for the grades and the test scores, but for the joy of learning. I really think that students who've discovered that joy of learning and are truly motivated to learn just seem to stand out in the process, in the college admissions process. They're usually well-read, they present themselves well in interviews because they can speak articulately about a variety of topics and also their motivations. And they really shine through on their personal statements and essays. So, develop a habit of reading and just being informed. Find something you love to do and learn more about it. That's what I think is probably the single most important habit in my mind.
Oh, definitely. No, I agree. Displaying that, intellectual curiosity is something that really stands out on an application, especially in an essay. And, everyone has the capacity to be interested in something. If you haven't found it yet, you've just got to keep looking, because everyone can find something they can be passionate about and curious about and want to go deep down the rabbit hole with. So, keep exploring, keep looking out there. What's one online college admissions resource that you absolutely love?
Actually, the one bit of advice that I give my students, it's not an online like a single online resource, but especially for my STEM students, but this would help other students too, I think, is to Google the name of college that you're interested in. And along with that, Google the words science news or research news or just news, okay? And the reason is, so for example, you could Google UC Berkeley science news, and you will get all kinds of really wonderful information about new programs or research grants that faculty have obtained at UC Berkeley, for example. And this information can help you in your college search, and it can also, give great information about things you might want to do. If somebody just got a huge grant looking at artificial intelligence and that's something you're really interested in, that might be somebody you want to intern with when you're in college. So you look on the college websites, but there's a lot of information just by Googling that you can find about that school. It's just another approach to learning more about the school. It's very simple and obvious, I think, but I think a lot of students don't do that so much, because if you dig around in the websites, you can find a lot of good stuff, and they'll post news articles on the websites also, but sometimes it's easier just to find stuff by Googling it.
That's really great advice, Shelley. I mean, the idea that you find university press releases, or maybe even in their official publications, or also student-run publications too. You could see what specific professors are up to with regard to research, and then that is an opportunity for an internship or research assistantship down the line. But at the same time, during the application process, for schools that offer interviews, you can talk about those things during the interview. For an essay about why you want to go to that school in particular, you can mention a detail or two about that you've discovered in your research. And it can really demonstrate to schools that you are committed and interested in going to their school specifically as well. Great advice, Shelley. What's one book that you believe no college applicant should be without?
It's hard to think of one single book, but I guess I would have to say the Fisk Guide. It's a comprehensive look at many colleges and universities, both in the U.S. and Canada, of course. I like its best buys list, especially considering the high cost of attending college right now. And it provides a lot of information about not only about academics, but, campus culture and all that is so important to the students. But it's important to remember that it only includes a few hundred schools, and they're carefully selected, which is great. But there could be other schools that are a good fit for a particular student that aren't in that guide. And so I just want to mention, if it's okay, one other resource that I actually use occasionally. It's the Hedberg Maps, collegemaps.com, which produces maps that show something like 1,300 four-year colleges in the U.S. and Canada. It doesn't give information about the college. It's just a map, okay? But I think it can be actually a pretty useful resource for students and parents, just at least to get their bearings on the locations of colleges, especially if a student's interested in a particular geographic area. And also it can really help when planning out college tours, like if you want to go to the East Coast and you want to do 5 or 6, 7, 10 colleges, you can sort of map it out. So I find that to be a pretty useful resource.
That's a great idea. Definitely planning college visits efficiently. College maps could be useful for that. So we'll definitely mention those in the show notes, Fisk Guide and collegemaps.com. Great recommendations,
Great.
Shelley. Thank you. So tell us a little bit more about what you're up to with helping STEM students.
Well, so like I mentioned, my goal is to help students who are interested to pursue a STEM major or career, and I'm sure everybody knows what STEM stands for, but just in case, I should say that science, technology, engineering, math, also medicine, and I help students create their college list. That's kind of a big part of it because it's a little bit different for STEM students. A lot of other things to think about, places where they can do internships. Do research, colleges versus universities. That's a conversation I usually have with students. And there's no right answer there, but lots to think about. I guide them through the college application process, but I also really help to prepare them for being in college and for future careers. That's another part of what I do, which is through the classes that I do and also through workshops on the process of applying for internships and selective summer programs. I feel that high school and college students can get a lot out of internships and special summer programs. Obviously these are things that they can write about on their college applications, which is really important. It shows their true interest in science and also the experience that they've gained. But these experiences can also help shape their career path. And that was definitely my personal experience. I participated in a lot of internships and volunteer experiences, paid, unpaid, throughout college, and it made a huge difference in what I decided that I wanted to do for my career. And I also think that high school students are really capable of contributing in positive ways in a research lab. They haven't developed those biases in science that us old folks have. And, so they bring fresh perspectives, and they also bring a lot of energy and enthusiasm. So I'm in the process of developing an online platform to host internship development workshops to help students develop the skills that they need to find their own internships, which will help with their career development, but also their college applications. And also, because I think we all know that what students have done while they're in high school is just critical to the success of their applications. And I guess this is what this is all about. So listeners who are interested in what I do should feel free to contact me at my website.
Great. And tell us what your website is, Shelley.
It's future-scientist.com. And my email address is Shelley, SHELLEY, at future-scientist.com.
Great. Future-scientist.com. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. Shelley, thank you so much for giving us all this great information and advice. I'm sure our listeners out there are going to love it.
Well, you're very welcome. Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Take care.
You too.
Some of you guys were asking me about how you should go about getting feedback on your college essays and your college essay topics to start with. So I just wanted to give you some quick tips on this. Most people will tell you to just get feedback from friends, family, and teachers, but there are some major problems with this. I mean, sure, they can give advice and read drafts, but it can get kind of tricky sometimes. They know you personally, but the people reading your application don't. It can be hard to say no to these people you know and respect if you don't agree with the changes they want you to make. What you really need is feedback from people who haven't met you before, who can give you their real, honest, constructive criticism and advice to help you write the best essay possible. But at the end of the day, it's going to be your essay, and you need to be able to say no if you don't agree with one of their changes. So I really recommend getting feedback from people you don't know, or at least people you don't know very well. This way, you'll feel more comfortable disagreeing with them if you don't like the suggestions they make. So you're probably thinking, where do you find these people? I mean, one thing you could do is ask friends of friends, acquaintances, to exchange college essays, the sort of thing you review mine, I'll review yours. But another place you can find these people is, of course, the internet. I really think this is one of the best ways. There's just something about the internet that makes it easier for people to get really honest with their feedback and share what they really think about things. So I've built a small private online community where you can get feedback from other students who are going through the process right now. By working together with other students, you can share advice and get feedback on your college essays. You'll also get feedback on your college essays from me personally. This private online community is just one of several resources I've put together. They're all part of a course I've created to help you write effective college essays. You can join this community and sign up for the online college essay course at collegeadmissionstoolbox.com/essays.
Thanks for listening to College Admissions Toolbox. Head over to www.collegeadmissionstoolbox.com to get more free tools and resources that will help you get into the colleges of your dreams.